Good afternoon, and welcome to the Engineering and Environmental Technologies presentation. My name is Jason, and I'll be your host for today's session. First off, you will hear from our Dean, Bill, and then be followed by our Associate Dean, Rebecca, who's going to walk us through a brief presentation. We will then move into the Q&A with our panel for after this presentation. Just a reminder to ask questions during the presentation, put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer the questions during our question and answer period. Over to you, Bill.
Thanks so much, Jason. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so pleased to have you join us today for the academic session on the Engineering and Environmental Technologies programs within the Technology and Visual Arts portfolio. My name is Bill Angelakos. I'm the Dean for Technology and Visual Arts, and I'm so happy you're here. This is a great opportunity for you to learn more about our programs, to get to meet some of our expert faculty and staff, meet our Associate Dean, Rebecca Sabrin, and also ask some questions and get answers to these questions that are so important in helping you make the decision that you're about to make right now for your next step of your learning. You're entering the post-secondary field, and it's important that you make the right decisions, the right choices, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help. So thanks again for joining us today. Look forward to the conversation, and I'll turn it back over to Rebecca for welcome. Thank you.
Rebecca, you're currently live.
Oh, hello. My name is Rebecca Sabrin. I'm the Associate Dean of Engineering and Environmental Technologies at Georgian College. Before joining Georgian College, I spent 27 years as an aerospace engineer in the Royal Canadian Air Force. I am absolutely ecstatic and excited that you've decided to participate in this session of the open house. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen because I have a presentation that I would love for you to see. Oh, can someone just tell me if my screen is sharing?
You'll have to just share again there.
Okay, please. Certainly.
And you'll just need to start the PowerPoint as we see the similar to a presenter view rather than the, there we go.
Okay, great. So have you ever wondered what opportunities exist when it comes to technology? Are you interested in science, technology, engineering, and math? And maybe you don't know. There are a lot of options out there, and for those of you that already know what you want to do, well, I think Georgian is a fabulous choice for you, and those of you that are leaving your options open, that's great too, but this is an incredible first step, just participating in an open house. So I want to highlight, before we get too far into this session, the top 3 things that I think are great about engineering and environmental technologies at Georgian College. The first one is it's an absolutely fabulous way to jumpstart your education and your career. Truly, the sky is the limit with respect to where you can go. Second, one thing I've noticed at Georgian College is Georgian College focuses on student-centric learning. So what does that mean? Well, we focus on hands-on learning and practices that enable learning and independent problem-solving skills. So I just want to bring to your attention this article that was recently in the Ontario Association of Certified Engineering Technicians and Technologists, which is a pretty amazing publication. And it's one of our students who was hired as a co-op student, and he did a complete upgrade of the protection relays in that lab. So he was basically told the intent, and then from there he determined the correct setup. He problem solved, program managed, and this was part of a partnership between Toronto Hydro and Georgian College. And finally, I think that Georgian College just offers incredible support throughout your program. We have an amazing team of faculty technologists, but at the same time, we have people available to support you. such as a student advisor named Becca Allen. She's there to maximize your success. We have just a front door reception staff, kind of like a Siri that you can reach out to and ask Karen or Jacqueline for assistance as you require it. We have our co-op advisors that assist you in getting co-ops and doing your work integrated learning, as well as in some cases helping students find employment upon their graduation. So as you can see, we definitely have a lot to offer. So now, have you wondered what programs exist within engineering and environmental technologies? Well, let me walk you through them. So you can see that there's the option of a 2-year program and a 3-year program. So in terms of Ontario College diplomas, those are the 2-year programs that we have. So there's Architectural Technologist that has 2 work terms. So it's 4 semesters plus 2 work terms. Civil Engineering Technician, sorry, the first should have been Architectural Technician. Then we have Civil Engineering Technician, 4 semesters plus 1 work term. Electrical Engineering Technician, which is 4 semesters plus 1 work term. And Environmental Engineering Technician, 4 semesters plus 1 work term. For our Ontario College Advanced Diplomas, we have Architectural Technology, which is 6 semesters plus 2 work terms, so 3 years. Civil Engineering Technology, 6 semesters plus 2 work terms. Electrical Engineering Technology, 6 semesters plus 3 work terms. And then we have Environmental Engineering Technology, 6 semesters plus 3 work terms. And Mechanical Engineering Technology, 6 semesters plus 3 work terms. And we're all incredibly excited to be launching Electromechanical Engineering Technology, which some of you may know as Mechatronics. So that will be launching in fall 21, which is just an exciting development for all of us. So thank you for letting me just showcase the programs that we have available. So now we're here to chat with you. We'd really like you to just ask us questions. So I'd like to introduce the members that will be on the panel and that will be available to answer your questions. So Cameron, are you able to come on live and just introduce yourself to the group and give a bit of your personal background?
So unfortunately, since Cameron is outside of Georgian, it doesn't appear that he can have access to unmute himself or to go on the camera, but he is happy to answer any other questions. So I'll just do a brief intro for him. So Cameron is one of our employers. So he works at Garrett's Engineering, and he's one of their operation managers, or their operation manager, I believe. And we've had several co-op students work at Garrett's from the mechanical, electrical, and civil and architecture programs. So he'd be happy to connect, or if we can get something figured out, then we can revisit that.
That's wonderful. So Mary, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I can do that. So I'm Mary Spencer. So I am the coordinator for the Civil Engineering program. So Civil Engineering Technician and Technologies. So the 2-year and 3-year program. So my background, I did a lot of civil work that had to do with everything, kind of from the road down. So making sure you got clean water delivered, that your basement's not flooding with stormwater, that when you pull onto a road, you can actually drive on it and the curbs work properly. So if you think about when you get on the 400, you can speed up, and when you get off the 400, it brings you to a halt to slow down. So I worked for AECOM, which is a large consulting firm. So where Cameron works, Garrett's is a smaller consulting firm. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. And then I've been teaching at the college since then.
Thank you, Mary. And I'm not sure if William was able to join us.
Hello, Rebecca, I'm here.
That's great.
My name is, oh, sorry to interrupt. My name is William. I'm a sixth semester student here at Georgian College in the Electrical Technologies, Electrical Engineering Technology program. I've been through 3 co-ops, both with utility, or all 3 with utility companies. 2 of them were with Electra in Barrie and 1 in Brampton, and then I was with Bruce Power nuclear plant as well too. I've experienced everything there is with Georgian, even through the COVID era here. So during the Q&A, if you have any questions about what life at Georgian is like, or maybe what the labs are like, and what it is to get a co-op and experience that, and how that's helped me develop, then by all means in the Q&A, you can direct your questions my way. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca, for sharing that wonderful information, and to Bill for that warm welcome. We're now going to be moving into the question and answer. If you have questions, please add them to the chat window and we'll get to them. So I am going to direct the first question to Mary. It's a very common question we get. Do I have to decide if I want to take the technician or the technology program right now?
All right, great question, Jason. And that is something we get not only before people start their programs, but then as they come into their programs. Some don't realize that there was another option. And no, you really don't need to decide, and you can change your mind almost as many times as you want to fill out a sheet of paper. So it's the same acceptance for both programs, the technician or the technologist, within any category. So electrical would be the same, civil would be the same, that type of thing. And you can switch between the programs. So often more people switch, from my experience, more people switch from the technician to the technologist program. So they will do the 2 years and realize, hey, doing 1 extra year really opens up a number of different opportunities for jobs after the fact. And in that extra year is really, it's 8 months of co-op, and then it's 8 months of school in our situation. So it's really not as onerous as it initially seems, and it's a pretty easy adjustment, and then we just fill out a form and you're on your way.
Perfect. And I'm just going to ask a follow-up question to Mary. What's the difference between a technician and a technologist?
So in very simplistic terms, if you want to think of a hierarchy, you would have an engineer or a project manager, and then you would have a technologist and then a technician. And it's more in terms of what they're doing with the information that they get. So a technician would do more of the gathering of information. So for civil, what that means is going out and doing the survey information. So you might see people out and around with different poles and that type of thing. They're doing surveys. So the technician might be the people doing that, and then the technologist might take that information, put it into a CAD file, start working on some of the design and that type of thing. It also, the technologist programs allow a little bit more continuation onto degree programs or different add-ons that you might do after college, and allow a little bit more upward movement in terms of career development.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. William, this question is for you. Since you are a student, what is everyday life at Georgian like, and how do classes typically run throughout a week?
It's a great question, as everyday life has shifted so far with what things used to be compared to now. Back in the day, classes, generally you're running 4 to 5 days a week. You have your classes, your schedules tend to either fall in like a morning segment, an afternoon segment, or an evening segment, and depending on which class block you pick, that's where you're going to be at. When it comes to now, when you pick your segment, you're given your class times, and those are WebEx meetings. So something very similar to what we're doing here. Your teacher would come online, introduce himself, give you guys the lessons for the time. This is also recorded right now, so you don't even so everything that you if you are unable to attend, you're actually able to catch up on it, or if you were able to attend, you're able to review it, and everything is done asynchronously right now, so you can go at your own pace. You got your deadlines that you got to follow, but you're still open to communicating with your professor. You're still open to communicating with your classmates virtually, and you have the entire class laid out on a platform called Blackboard, where you can go through, check your assignments, check your tests, check your due dates. Right now, I think Georgian's doing an incredible job of running it a day to day. So.
Perfect. Thanks, William. I'm going to direct this next question to Rebecca. This question is specifically about architectural technology, but I think it will suit all programs across your portfolio. They want to know what type of computer and applications are required. Should they be purchased prior to semester 1?
That is an absolutely great question. It's something that students should be very cognizant of before they come to Georgian, especially now that a lot of the learning is remote. So on the Georgian website, there's actually the information supplied in terms of what sort of capacity computers have to have dependent on the program. But one thing that I would highly recommend is not purchasing a Mac. Mac does not work, and I'm not sure, Mary, if you want to add any more information to that.
Sure, I can add a little bit more to that. So there is pretty clear kind of expectations of the computers that you're going to want to use. You're going to want to have an idea of your internet speed. So as you can imagine, when you're trying to load up videos and that type of thing. In terms of actual software, depending what program you're in, you're going to use likely a mix of either Civil 3D, so that's an AutoCAD derived software, AutoCAD itself, GIS, Revit, am I missing anything? And then the typical Word suite of programs, basically. So you want to make sure that you can run those. You do get Office 365 as being part of the college. So that is a helpful thing there, but you will have to load directly specific programs into onto your machine.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to direct the next question to Rebecca as well, and I think this is across portfolio, but someone wants to know, how physical is the jobs from this course? How physical demanding would they be?
Yeah, these are all wonderful questions. So there is occupational health and safety, which is quite clear in what employees are allowed to lift and what sort of tasks they may be required to do. So I don't know the exact information, but I would say an average person in good health would not have a problem just completing the day-to-day. So in my experience as an aerospace engineer, which is really a mechanical engineer, some of our job might have been just sitting at a desk. And fortunately, there is an element of sitting at the desk, but at the same time, there is an element of walking down into either a hangar or a machine shop, or even on site. I'm sure Mary has some suggestions. I know going out to bridges and inspecting structures. So there is that requirement to be able to wear the steel-toe boots and get access to sites. But there is occupational health and safety standards when it comes to what sort of lifting people can do or what the expectations of the employer should be. So nothing I would assume to be too onerous for the average person.
Perfect, thank you. I think this question can be architectural and civil, so I'm going to throw it to Mary here. We have someone that's interested in the architectural program, but they're not creative. If I was in the program, will I get more creative as it goes? And you can also tie that in. Do I need to know anything about architectural, civil, electrical before I enter the program, or can I just walk in as a high school student or a mature student?
So we are basically going from ground zero in all of our programs. So expect that you have done high school math and English, but that's really about it. So in civil, for example, we have people who come into the program having worked for 20 years on a construction site and are coming back to reskill and to take on a new career path type of thing. And we have people who come out of high school and thought that, hey, maybe this would be an interesting career, and they really don't know the difference between a dump truck and an excavator type of thing. So the first year is a lot of really kind of establishing the playing field that you're on, making sure everybody has the individual fundamentals that they need for that in order to do that sort of to develop in the program and wherever they're going. And I think you, for any of the programs, you really develop a different set of creativity. So right now, you might think of creativity as, I don't really know how to draw very well, or I'm not very good at art, but the creativity that you're developing within these programs also has to do with how you approach a design and how do you make it innovative and novel, and how do you do things really efficiently. So if you want to think, another example, for example, would be our electricity grid. So when our electricity grid was designed, electric vehicles weren't a thing. We weren't worrying about charging those. So now as we move to more electric vehicles, are there clever ways that we can try and charge those vehicles for people who live in condos, for example, and they might not have specific parking for their vehicles? How are they going to charge an electric vehicle? And so you want to think of creativity a little bit in a different way in terms of being creative in solving those problems versus what we might think of as kind of innate creative talent in terms of like drawing or art or that type of thing.
Yeah, could I also weigh in that one thing that I think is very useful, and even in my career, is the opportunity to do work integrated learning. I don't know, William, if you felt that you got a lot out of just being around other people that were more experienced during your co-ops, and that really allowed you to scaffold your learning and start being creative and looking at different ways to solve problems. I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that.
Sorry, William, you're currently muted.
There we go. So when it comes to what I was able to pick up from my co-ops and creativity, Mary was really right when she mentioned that you do grow. Originally, when you come into the program, you may not know a whole lot about how the industry works. And it's hard to think about, well, how am I going to connect this up, or how are we going to run this cable, or how are we going to hook up this box, stuff like that. And when you come in, you don't really understand the approach to take. But when I've been working on my co-ops, I've been able to watch other experienced individuals do these things, and eventually you start to realize what limitations you have and which ones you don't. And then you can come into the job and say, okay, I got this problem. And that's the way I look at creativity when it comes to electrical engineering anyways, is more problem solving. So I got this problem. I could try to solve it this way, but let's look at seeing how else we could better do this so that it looks better, runs better, and it makes the boss happier, kind of thing. So.
Perfect. Thank you, William and Mary and Rebecca, for that answer. This is going to be sort of a follow-up question to William. You sort of touched about co-ops. Can you talk about some of your co-op experience, maybe some of the employers that you've worked for or your friends have worked for, and some of maybe your students that you've seen in your program and where they've ended up finding jobs once they've graduated?
Certainly. So, when it comes to the co-ops that I've worked, the first one I did was at the Bruce Power nuclear plant, and that was a fantastic experience. I came in, I've never seen what a nuclear plant looks like, so I got to experience that and expand my depth of like, okay, so this is how large of an operation these utility companies can be. And I got to experience with that one, I was able to experience little tiny bits of each section. Worked in like 4 different departments in the 4 months that I was there. With Electra, that gave me a great understanding further of how our utility companies work and the kind of different jobs that you want to go into. When you get in this program, you find that a lot of people ask you, hey, what is it that you want to do afterwards? What is it that you want to do afterwards? And 90% of us, when we come in first semester, we're like, I have no clue. I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to go this way, but I've never been there before. And the co-ops let you experience that, the ability to see, okay, so this is what this job is like. Oh, I've been hearing this term. This is what this is actually meant for, and this is what the job actually is. Really? Oh, well, I might want like this direction better. And because you have 3 co-ops, you have the ability to pick and choose where you want to go, where you want to apply for, and kind of aim the field that you want to get into. My one friend, she had her first co-op was just developing fire alarm systems for apartment buildings and such. And then her second co-op, she was at a nuclear plant herself with OPG. Another friend of mine, she's found Eaton in her first co-op, and she loved it and was able to do it for all 3 co-ops. And as far as if you're wondering, do you actually get a job out of these? My one buddy, he was in the technician program, and he did both his co-ops with Toronto Hydro, and he is currently working for Toronto Hydro. So it does happen.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I'm going to direct this question at Mary. We've had a couple participants ask about pathways. So can you do your 2 3-year programs, and then can you move them over to university degree and try and knock down a couple years about pathways?
So there are a few different options for this. So one is you can continue on at Lakehead after you have completed your 3-year diploma. So a key thing to kind of understand is engineering is a regulated profession. So the universities that offer an engineering degree, they have to meet certain external accreditation requirements, basically. So you have to actually take over 50% of the course of your engineering course at the institution that is going to be your degree granting institution for engineering to then go on and become a professional engineer. So that's something to consider just in terms of like that's how the system works for that. So you can go on to Lakehead after your 3 years. Typically what students do is they do a summer transition program, and then they will do another 2 years at Lakehead. It's very common for it to end up taking 3 years. In terms of planning that, there's been other people who have gone and kind of done engineering, specifically part-time at other institutions that are located a little bit closer. It hasn't saved them a bunch of time. Lakehead is for sure the most efficient time-wise path. And then there's also options for other career paths. So if you wanted to add to complement your engineering your engineering diploma with a business degree or that type of thing, that you can go on and do that. So we have some pathways with some institutions in Ireland where you can go on and you can complete kind of a more business or project management oriented degree. You can also go on and do a master's in that way. So there's a few different options. It depends what direction you want to go. If you want to become a professional engineer at the end, then there's kind of more efficient specific pathways to follow. There's also McMaster, and there's one other university offer what's called a Bachelor's of Engineering Technology. And in that one, your diploma does save you some time in that, but it's important to know that that's a Bachelor's of Engineering Technology, not a Bachelor's of Engineering. So if you then go on to get your professional engineering designation, which is what you'll hear referred to as your stamp, essentially, you will have to write a number of challenge exams if you choose that. So there's a lot of different pathways for sure. And it's definitely something that you want to think about kind of what your end goal might be. And then there's different ways to get to that.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question is around the math requirement. So I know almost all the programs have math required, but I'm not good at math. Can I still take the program? Is there any support to help me through math while I'm in the program as well? And I'll give that one to you, Mary.
All right. So yeah, math is often a challenge for many people, and nobody is really alone in that. We take people from essentially from high school math, and then we move beyond that. A few things that are a little bit different about when we're doing math is there are specific just math courses. However, in your other courses, you're now using math for a purpose. So for example, instead of just calculating the volume, you are calculating the volume of dirt and how many trucks you are going to need to haul that amount of dirt away. So sometimes having that transition to the numbers actually really meaning something and no longer just being numbers really helps people with their understanding. However, often people need quite a bit of support, and that is a-okay, and we are more than prepared for that. So we have a math help center that runs out of the library, and it still runs even during the COVID times. It runs online, and you can pretty much stroll in there anytime during the week, during essentially normal-ish business hours, and get help with whatever math that you are working on. We also have what's called hub tutoring hours. So that's where they will hire kind of higher level students in a variety of different engineering programs, and they will be available to help you with math or any other course that you need help with. And it's typically students that are kind of a year or two ahead of you, so they've taken all the same courses. And then you have your typical assistance with your professor and different help through that as well. And so one thing math is a component of any engineering program, but it's not the only component, right? So we're using math to do problem solving, and it's a little bit more purposeful in that way.
Just to add to that real quick, so the Math Center, I actually was one of those students that got hired for the math tutoring, and it's a great program. I have a friend who came into this and she was terrible at math, didn't know what she was doing. The concept of it scared her, and through the math tutoring program, because it is other students that tend to help you out with that, she was able to feel comfortable and move on, and she's completed this program and got marks in her math courses that she never thought was possible. So that's all I wanted to let you know, is just how great that tutoring program can be.
Yeah, maybe I could just add a comment too. It's not unusual for me to see students arranging office times with faculty, such as I think of Mary. I often see her with students in her office, and she goes through problems with them. So there is a lot of support, and our faculty is very much there to try and assist the students. And at the same time, we also have the student advisor who is able to connect students with resources that they require. And every program area has a student advisor that students can refer to. So if they don't feel comfortable speaking with faculty or their coordinators, they can go to the Math Center, as Will suggested, or they can make an appointment with the student advisor. So there are lots of avenues to seek help. It's just recognizing as a student that maybe you feel like you're behind and having a voice to reach out and get assistance.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. Next question is going to you, Rebecca. How does Georgian stay connected with industry partners to know that our graduates are meeting their needs?
I love that question, because obviously the intent for most people going to school is to prepare themselves for their career. So we want to make sure that Georgian College has an extremely good reputation when it comes to industry. Just to give you a little story, I was talking with a member of industry, and I was saying, well, this is a very competitive area. You've got universities, you've got colleges. I said, how do you determine what student you want to hire, or what graduate you want to hire? And he said, well, it doesn't matter if they're from a university or from a college. What I look for is passion and understanding and hard working. So those are some things that we take into account. We ensure that our students have the soft skills to be able to go into an environment, be a positive member of the team, as well as communicate well with the team. So some other ways that we make sure that our students are prepared for industry is some of our faculty are actually non-full-time faculty. So during the day they work in industry, and then after or during the day they get some time off from their full-time job and they come and work at Georgian. So often they bring with them ideas, skills, experiences, stories that allow our students to just be on the cutting edge of what's happening in industry. I'm sure Mary would, I know that Mary liaises regularly with the Barrie Construction Association. She has a lot of relationships with the members of industry, and so do almost all of our faculty. They're very much connected with the members of industry, as well as they volunteer in the schools to just understand what's important with our students that will be coming in. We also have a research and innovation hub. So a lot of industry will come to our research and innovation hub with ideas, and then that research and innovation hub will hire faculty or even propose to students a co-op to be able to work on cutting edge ideas. Recently, we had a bunch of bicycles in the research and innovation hub that the students were working on for a company. Also, the picture I showed with the student that we hired to upgrade all the relays just shows that we're always partnering with industry, such as Toronto Hydro, to stay abreast of new technology and ensure that our students are familiar with those systems. We also twice a year have program advisory committees for every program, and that's where the members of industry come in. We talk about what's going on in the industry, and we ask them questions as to how are our graduates doing and what would you like to see in terms of maybe some improvements or areas that we could strengthen, so when they come and work for you, they're ready to go as much as possible. And then finally, I'm sorry this is taking a while, but we also do program renewals. So every 5 years, we get together a group of faculty and industry partners and other stakeholders at Georgian College to look at each program area and just determine if there's areas where maybe something has changed that we need to improve, or we need to make investments in that program. So recently we bought 5 3D printers, 4 small ones, 1 really big one, a laser scanner, just to try and keep up with additive manufacturing. So long story short, we have lots of mechanisms and we keep ourselves very busy listening to our industry partners. So our graduates are really sought after when they're done their programs at Georgian. Thank you, Jason.
Perfect. And I'm just going to ask one follow-up question when it comes to technologies. Can you tell us some about the technologies and labs that our students get to work in that might be unique to Georgian as well? Rebecca.
Oh, for me. Yeah, no, that's great. There's so much going on at Georgian. It's incredible. We bought some new lathes. We bought some new CNC Haas equipment recently. We have an EDM cutter. Like I said, we bought 3D printers. We have laser scanners. I'm trying to think of what other purchases. It's almost like Christmas sometimes. We're just acquiring so much new equipment. I know in the architectural program, we are using virtual reality so that students can actually place their structures on site of where they think it's going to go and then walk through their structure to see if it makes sense. So using virtual reality. We've switched to a lot of simulation with COVID because we're reducing the number of students at Georgian. So William, I know we've done a lot in our electrical lab, so I'm wondering if there's anything you'd like to share.
Certainly, there's a few things I could share on that. So the first thing I'd like to say is that for not regarding COVID, but when I was actually able to attend inside the labs themselves, Georgian has a plethora industry tools and measuring devices and everything that you need to get your hands on that you will definitely see in industry. I can't even count how many times I worked on something in a lab and I went like, oh, what, when is this going to get used? And then I went on co-op. I went, oh, okay, that's why we did that. That's where this comes into play, especially like with electrical in particular. Not to get too technical, but there's protection relays that were used in our labs that are the exact same protection relays that I just got off co-op and we're working on live at Electra. As far as the COVID situation goes, the way that the labs have been handled, at least in our course, is that there is quite a fair bit of tools online that you're able to use to do the same thing. A lot of the software that we were using during our labs while we were in them, we're actually able to use that exact same software online as well too. I know there's one called LabVolt Simulator where you're actually connecting up motors and pulling wires across, and it's the exact same thing as if you were gonna just be manually plugging them in. The only thing is it's done virtually as well too for like PLCs and PNC. There's a lot of power programs and such as ETAP. Another one that we sorry, it's slipping my mind, but we for the PNCs we actually used the relay programs as well too, and the PLCs we also did Omron Technologies, and you're able to download them right to your computer. Rebecca, you mentioned not getting a Mac. That's going to come in very much handy, especially during remote learning sessions, because most of this software does work for Windows. So.
Yeah, I just want to say a little bit more, Jason. Something that's really exciting for me is our robots that we've recently, we've had them, but we purchased our KUKA rabbits robots. So we've got 3 different types of robots that the students are able to use. And we just purchased a lot of Siemens Mechatronics stations, and the faculty are just having and starting to use them. So just lots of change. And Mary, I'm not sure if you want to discuss the work that we did on the soils lab to just make it a better learning environment.
Yeah, so we did some kind of changes just to the setup with our soils lab. It's a big echoey room, so we made some adjustments sound-wise and that type of thing. And then we've also purchased some equipment in the last 2 years, so students can really gives you the ability to see how soils move under different pressures and that type of stuff, and really see what is happening there. One of our lab classes that students really enjoy is our material testing lab. So that's when you actually get the chance to mix concrete and asphalt and do all the soil testing exactly like you would do in the field. Usually we have people come in from Lafarge and one other company depending on the year, and they'll come in and talk about exactly what they do in the field, which is pretty well what we're replicating in the lab. And then it's actually taught by faculty who works at Georgian Paving, so that is their kind of all the time job basically. So they really have the expertise to teach that and know what employers are looking for in the field with that sort of experience.
Perfect. And we'll ask one last very quick question as our time is running out. What exactly is mechatronics? Rebecca, do you want to explain that one quickly?
That's great. So I'm laughing because I'm a mechanical engineer, and when I went to school, 27, well, I won't tell you how old I am. Actually, mechanical engineering was learning a lot about mechanical systems and very little about everything else. So mechatronics is like the perfect marriage of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer sciences. So it's just putting all these different program areas together and really optimizing them so that then you can use Internet of Things to have them communicate and just use and harvest data so you can become really efficient and effective when it comes to just processes that might be used, let's say, in the aviation industry, they might be used in the automobile industry, they might be used in quality control, just an infinite number of opportunities for anyone that specializes in mechatronics. I'm very excited by just this offering that Georgian is going to have. And it was really something that our dean thought was needed at Georgian, and it is very much the way of the future, in my opinion. So thank you. Great question, Jason.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. I would just like to give our panel a big thank you for joining us, and I hope we answered a lot of your questions. Participants, do not forget to visit our application hub for help with your application